Another woman noticed that the woman across the street only came out to empty the trash. So one day she got the courage to go and talk to her and said, "Hey, is there anything I can do for you?" She said, "Yeah, I need help." And she was a victim of human trafficking. That woman now, who was rescued out of that, has her own human trafficking organization, anti-human trafficking organization in Dallas.
Attorney General Ken Paxton, great to have you back on American Thought Leaders.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So, gosh, you are involved in a number of issues which are, quite important in this country, some things that we've been covering on American Thought Leaders. Let's start with your look into big tech, right? I mean, it's yourself and a great many more state attorney generals. Where are things at today?
So we're involved in two. One is Facebook, but New York is leading that one. The one I know most about is the one we're leading, which is Google. We have 51 attorney generals, which means we have a few territories involved. So almost every state in the union is part of our investigation. So we have made a request from Google to turn over certain documents so that we can try to understand if there is anti-competitive behavior or monopolistic behavior. We've had a little bit of fight. They've tried to block some of our experts from viewing those documents, and fortunately, we've been successful in getting a change from them because we're probably going to win on that anyway. Very likely we're going to win on that.
So, can you give me a picture of what it actually takes to do an investigation like this, and how are each of these 51 attorney generals involved? I mean, it's hard to kind of imagine. This is a scale beyond what you typically see.
Well, you have to realize, Google is a massive company with massive resources, larger than some countries in the world. So we're not talking about a small player here. This is not a typical company. They're very, very large, and they generate significant cash flow that they can pretty much fund anything they want to fund. So that is an interesting part of this. They're not the normal target of an investigation. So we have the 51 states. We have an executive committee, and involves several states taking on various roles. Some of the states in the executive committee are looking at different aspects. We're looking at what's called ad tech, which is advertising.
Okay.
We have other groups looking at the Android sort of setup. We have others looking at how the searches occur. So we've divided it up. Our focus is really on advertising. One of the concerns that we have is that they completely dominate advertising on the internet. So when consumers are thinking they are searching for free, the reality is it may not be as free as they think, because if you're Google and you represent almost all the buyers, and then you represent almost all the sellers, and you are also creating the exchange, you have all the information on the buy-sell exchange. You control the market, and there may not be competition, and therefore prices for advertising are maybe higher than they should be, so consumers end up paying more for products.
It's very interesting. We actually use YouTube advertising quite a bit for the Epoch Times, or our print subscription business.
Yes, and they control that as well.
Right. So, okay, let's switch gears a little bit. Another sort of topic that is actually very, very close to my heart that you're involved in and you're working very hard on. I think Texas is the number 2 state suffering from human trafficking.
That's correct.
In terms of numbers. How are things on that front?
So we started a human trafficking unit in my office after my first year in office. It took me about a year to set it up. It's an issue that I learned about when I was in the Texas Senate, and I was concerned about it. I heard such horrific stories when I was in the Senate. I promised myself if I could do something about it, more than I would. And so we created a human trafficking unit that are focused on prosecuting it, educating people about what it is and how to recognize it and how to stop it, and building partnerships, because we don't have enough resources in my office to come close to stopping it. So our goal is to partner with as many groups as we can. Like, we partner with the Truckers Against Trafficking.
Okay, interesting.
We partner with the Uber, because these people are on the ground and they can report it. And so our goal is to sort of enlist the support and leverage partners all over the state and all over the country.
Fascinating. So how can people let's say you're an organization, you're watching this right now, and you're thinking, hey, I want to partner. This is important to me. Where would you go?
Contact my office, texasattorneygeneral.gov, and we can make the connections, and we'll figure out how we can work together. we don't ever turn down at least the initial conversation to see if there's a way that what we're doing, whether it fits with whatever the organization is, what they're doing.
Because we've been, I've had a number of people, I've had victims of human trafficking on the show. I've had people who are working on this issue seriously. And, one of the things I've learned is that there are these telltale signs, and it's trainable, right? Is this, you have some kind of educational initiatives?
That's correct. We have a video that we produced that's not your typical government video. It's on our website, or we will send it to you. It's called Be the One, and it's about, it's vignettes. It's about an hour long of young women who were caught up in human trafficking, and about sort of heroes who recognized that there was a problem and stepped in to save them. And it's the story of these young women who have been rescued out of human trafficking, and it helps the viewer realize that they can be a part of this too. They may, if you didn't see a video like this, you may not do anything, and you might be a little suspicious but afraid to do something. But if you saw the video and saw some of the warning signs, you might be willing to step up too and be the one.
So what's an example of one of these warning signs?
So just simply, there was a guy in the Woodlands, which is north of Houston, who had noticed that this empty house had a lot of traffic. And he started videotaping. It was right across the street from his house. And he ultimately, these cars were coming in daily and sometimes many a day. And he ended up reporting this to the police after recording it for a period of time, and broke up a massive human trafficking ring in North Houston.
Wow, he just smelled something was wrong here.
Yeah, another woman noticed that the woman across the street only came out to empty the trash. So one day she got the courage to go and talk to her and said, "Hey, is there anything I can do for you?" She said, "Yeah, I need help." And she was a victim of human trafficking. That woman now, who was rescued out of that, has her own human trafficking organization, anti-human trafficking organization in Dallas.
Incredible. Okay, and so in terms of prosecutions, you've kind of said you're kind of overwhelmed with the reality of what's happening. Is that
That's true.
accurate?
So we have focused on prosecutions. We have a little bit of trouble in Texas because we don't have original jurisdiction. In other words, district attorneys have original jurisdiction in human trafficking cases. So if they don't do it, there's nobody that can follow up.
Right.
So that's one little issue. But we're trying to work with them and trying to get, educate them so that they know we have lawyers. That's all they do. And there's very few places in our state where you have an office that has dedicated human trafficking investigators and prosecutors. We have that. We were able to participate in our first 8 months. We were part of the arrest of the CEO of Backpage.com, which we believed was the largest online purveyor of human trafficking in the world, and at least in the United States. And they were, I think, involved in 96, 97 different countries, responsible at that time, we were told, for 73% of the calls to the Centers for Missing and Exploited Children. And so we were able to arrest the CEO and shut that company down, along with the help from the federal government and California.
One very high-profile case. Yeah, that's incredible. It's also incredible what that one site was able to do.
Oh, it was amazing. And, we wanted to go after the biggest of the big and send them the message, hey, we're here. If you're doing these horrific things, we're out here and we may catch you.
Well, let's talk about another horrific area that you're also very serious about, which is also something that's very important to me, and that's the opioid crisis. And I know, like when we spoke last, we talked about this. Where have things come now? Like how is it looking? I heard, overall, I think it's the first time we're seeing a decline in many years, but that's federally, at the federal level, in cases, right? In overdoses and so forth, I believe.
So what my office is doing, along with work from almost every Attorney General's office across the country, is to basically go after the manufacturers of this for misleading doctors and for not letting them know that these products were very addictive. And look, there's a place for opioids, for pain medication, but they weren't adequately informing people about how addictive they were and the consequences of continuing to take these drugs. And so
these are the prescription drugs.
Yes.
that are getting people hooked on opioids in the first place, and then they go to these more, wow.
Yes, and so we're in the process of either suing or potentially trying to get settlements so that we can provide resources to victims Also, we want to prevent this, obviously, so we're trying to provide resources to people that are affected by the opioid crisis.
And how does that manifest? Like, what kind of resource could someone get? Let's say someone is watching, maybe they're worried about a family member. What can they do?
So
What
at this
can they
point, we
benefit
have
from?
not settled any of these cases. We're in the process of doing that, but there is a list of numerous types of programs that the money can go to. Each state will have some say in how their money is spent.
I see.
But we're in the process now of
Figuring
those
it out.
negotiations and those lawsuits, trying to make sure that people get that money.
Okay, very, very interesting. Any final words before we finish up?
No, you guys are doing a great job.
Well, thank you very much. Such a pleasure to speak with you.
Hey, thanks a lot.